Okay, my friends, welcome to Overcoming Loneliness for Christian Moms. If you have followed me online or if you listened to my last show, Not Your Mama's Relief Society, welcome back. Thanks for being here. If you are new, just welcome. It feels so good to be behind a podcasting mic again. It's been a bit of a journey for me to learn what I needed to learn so I could create a new show. And it wasn't even on my radar for a very long time. And then I had to learn some things. And then it kind of got presented to me a couple different times from people of like, you need to get back into podcasting. We miss your show. Please podcast again. And I'm flattered. It was just kind of not in the cards at that moment. But here we are. I'm ready. Let's go. This is going to be so good. So if you are new here and you don't know anything about me, let me tell you about me. I'm Annie Joy. I am an Arizona transplant from Utah. I lived here about 15 years, but I did grow up in the great state of Utah. I've had some mixed feelings about my childhood there, but I learned to kind of re-narrate that story, and I learned a lot. I missed a lot of things about it. A lot of my family still lives there. In fact, most of my family still lives there, and many of my dearest lifelong friends are still there. So I love going back, but I do love my Arizona life. I will take the boiling blood in the summertime because the winters are fabulous. So I am twice divorced because I'm keeping it classy, and I have two adorable children. I'm a single mama. My oldest, he has autism, and he is almost 12, and he has freckles that slay me every day. I just love him. And my youngest, she had a birth defect as a baby, and she is 10. So her birth defect was she had a congenital diaphragmatic hernia. And that basically is fancy for her intestines herniated up through her diaphragm and collapsed her lung and pushed her heart over. It was a whole huge, terrible thing. I actually have a whole episode on Charlotte's story over on my other podcast. I also have an episode about my son, Evan. Anyway, but point is, my kids have had some extra needs, bless their hearts, and it's been a tricky little journey of motherhood. And it's been part of why I have felt deep loneliness myself. One, being a special needs mom, and then being a single mom has been quite lonely, but I've learned to overcome that. So here we are. I also, as a mother, really value emotional safety in my home. So I've worked really, really hard to make sure my kids always feel heard and how they feel and teach them emotional skills because I did not learn that growing up. Most of us didn't. Let's be real. So now we get to teach our own children. More about me. I really love to make up silly songs and silly dance moves, and my kids love it when I do funny voices. We're in this really sweet spot of them not being teenagers yet, and they still think I'm funny. And my daughter still wants to match me. So we're really owning that perspective right now. And that point of perspective, we're owning that season of our life is what I'm trying to say. So we're loving the season. It's really, really fun. Everybody wipes their own butt. Everybody can sort of make lunch and everyone can play Uno. So we're in a really good spot right now and I love it. So I have a bachelor's in psychology and I worked for several years in the mental health field before I had my kids and some after I had my kids. And I essentially have two businesses. I run a kindness camp for girls in the summer, and it's been traditionally younger girls, like 9 to 12. But I believe it's happening this year. If not this year, the next year. But I'm going to be launching more of a leadership program for older girls to help those younger girls. I'm really excited. But for the past 3 years, the kindness camp has been in the summer for younger girls to help them learn about confidence and communication and how to accept differences from other people and to manage bullying, all the things. It's been great. And then my other business has been life coaching, and I'm actually shifting gears and pivoting into having this online community for mamas just like you to develop real connection and to learn the skills that are necessary to combat loneliness and to feel better about your life. It's called Kindness Community, and I hope you will join us. That will be launching soon. Okay, let's get into this. Just know that I have prayed mightily over you, okay? I wanted to be led in what was needed and what was helpful and what would serve you the best. And as I've gone through this really long journey of figuring out my business and my show and all the things, it really hit me so strongly that our world is so lonely. I think most everybody has been affected by loneliness at some point in their life. And I also know that one of my deepest desires is to give the whole world a hug so that they can know that they are lovable and that they are worth loving. And those things combined has really made sense for me to have a platform where I can share with you the things I've learned and that I'm still learning about overcoming loneliness. I wouldn't say I've mastered it. I just have come a really long way and I feel much better about my ability to tackle it when those feelings come up. So that's why I want to help you. So here's how this podcast is going to go, my friend. I'm going to share insights and stories, and I'm going to share with you about how I have faced really deep heartache and really deep loneliness and still created a life that I love. It's not perfect, but I'm not expecting a perfect life at this point, and I hope you're not either. But if you are, let's work on that, okay? So I want to help you find that joy for yourself as well. And I'll share actionable steps because I do think that talking about is one thing, but knowing how to do it is really important. And that's something that I think that I'm really good at, is helping you find those actionable steps to really do this thing. So I'll share steps on how you can find yourself, your crew, and your joy. It's going to be great. And believe me, my friends, I know a little something about feeling lonely, okay? Like I talked about, I am a single mom. I am a special needs mom. Those things have been very lonely spaces. And I will be sharing so many stories throughout the podcast about my life and my loneliness moments and all the things. But for today, I felt really inspired that I should tell you the story about the day that my loneliness almost won. I do want to give a heads up of a trigger warning on this story, just in case you have any children in the room. Just want you to be aware. So, okay, back when I was 19, 20, I had this boyfriend, and I have so much forgiveness for him at this point. So I want to make sure that's clear, that I have no hatred or ill will towards him whatsoever. But at that time, our relationship was terrible. And there was a lot of horrible things happening in that relationship. And I won't share all the details, but there was a lot of things happening that were not okay. And I was very, very, very bad back then at speaking up for myself and what I needed. And I have a string of bad relationships in the past 20 years. But I've learned a lot, and that's why I'm single, because I will not ever again get into a relationship with someone unless they are healthy and that they bring out healthiness in me. So, that being said, back then I did not have those tools, and that was not where I was at. So I had this boyfriend, and it was a terrible, terrible relationship. And I wanted to hang on to it because I wanted to prove through this relationship that I was worth loving. And the more that it didn't work, the more I tried to double down and prove that I was worth loving. And I remember even at one point, my dad had asked me, like, do you really want to marry him? Because then we got engaged. You know, because when things are a dumpster fire, the best solution is to get engaged, right? Like, I don't know what I was thinking. It's fine. I do know what I was thinking. I was thinking that I was really insecure and I just wanted proof that someone could love me. So I agreed to marry him, and we had this wedding on the books, and it was just a train wreck. And he lived in another state from me, and it just, the whole thing was like a dumpster fire, really. But about like a month or so before we were supposed to get married, he came out to visit me, and we were kind of fighting anyway. Like things were kind of rough, and like kind of not sure if we were gonna go through with this, but like we hadn't said we were breaking up. We hadn't said no wedding was called off. We just were like trying to work through some things. And I think I said something like, maybe we just need to pause for a minute, because if we're having this many issues, like maybe we should just take a pause and push back the wedding, I think is what I had suggested. And anyway, and then come to find out that he cheated on me with my roommate that I was living with at the time. And it was terrible. And I am so grateful now, because now looking back, that was a catalyst for me to move forward in my life. But at the time, I didn't feel 1 ounce grateful. I was just pissed. Okay. I was so angry and upset and hurt that this person that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with decided that I wasn't worth it to him and wanted to just casually hook up with my roommate. Like for no actual good reason. I don't think they even talked to each other after that day. Like there was no good reason. This was just dumb. Anyway, so it was deeply devastating for me and my cute little 20-year-old self to understand that this was not about me, that it was about him and his own issues. But I couldn't see that at the time. All I could see was that here was my proof that I wasn't lovable. I couldn't get this dumpster fire of a relationship to work out, therefore I was unlovable. That was the logic I was working with back then. And I really believed it. To my core, I believed it. And leading up to this relationship, I had been beating myself up for years. I mean, that makes sense why I would seek out crappy relationships because I had a crappy relationship with myself. And I would berate myself for every mistake I made. I turned the wrong way down the street and I would berate myself for like 15 minutes about how stupid I was. Like, this was the life I was living back then. I was so mean to myself. I did not like myself. But I thought that it was just these outside forces proving that I wasn't lovable. I had no idea that it was me causing these problems. And so I just felt so deeply sad that this relationship had ended. And I really believed that it was the final straw, that it was my final proof that I was not lovable and that no one could ever love me. And if no one could ever love me, then what was I doing still on this earth? It just didn't make sense anymore. And it wasn't that I really wanted to die, but I really wanted the pain to end. I really wanted this constant dialogue in my head of how terrible I was to end. I just wanted out. I wanted out of my head, out of my life, out of this pain. And I did attempt suicide. And it was a dark, lonely, lonely moment. Because I realized how dark I had gotten in my mind and I realized how deep of a hole I was in. And then I was so embarrassed and so ashamed that I hurt my family. I hurt my family and I hurt my friends, and it was painful to know how much they cared. And it was not a good way for me to find out. That's never the solution, to find out that people care about you. And I was really deeply ashamed after that for making that choice and for hurting them. But it ended up being a gift. I would never recommend it. Please don't. Like, please, please, please stay. But for me, it was a wake up call to how far and how low I had gotten. And it started me on my journey. I'm 42 now, so we're 22 years into this journey of my own mental health, of taking care of my own depression and anxiety and my own dark, dark, dark moments. And I'm not 100% there. I still have lots of things that I battle, but I have so many more tools in my tool belt. So if anyone listening has ever had those moments where things are just really, really dark, I want you to know that you are not alone, that you are not the first or the last person to have those feelings. And that means that you are normal. And it means that they're just going to pass. I promise they're going to pass. There is always going to be light. So please stay. You are worth loving. You are worth having here. We need you as you are to stay here with us. Promise, okay? And if you're having a hard time believing that, please reach out to me. If you don't want to reach out to me, reach out to somebody, because you are worth keeping here on this earth. So I get out of the hospital, I start going to therapy, and it just started me on this journey, okay, to like understand myself better, understand how to navigate my own mental health better. So that experience is what started me on this whole journey of learning about psychology, of working in the mental health field, life coaching, all the things I've done, all the books I've read, all the things I've done have all been from this pivotal moment in my life to understand that that choice was selfish and that choice hurt other people and that that choice wasn't going to fix anything. I am so passionate about this topic because our suicide rates are too high. The amount of people who are in deep emotional pain is staggering. And if I can raise my little torch high and it helps somebody to make the choice to stay, then it is all worth it. I'll tell you right now, I had a lot of fears about coming back to this podcasting space and getting more online and all the things. But I just decided that my reason for doing this is so much bigger than my fears. That my reason to reach out to you and let you know that you are not alone and that there are ways to overcome this dark loneliness is what makes it worth it. So I am here, a little bit scared, but I'm here because I want you to know how lovable you are. Okay, so when you are in the thick of it, I know you might be struggling to feel God near you. I know there are times that I felt that way, so I understand. And it might feel really heavy to think that he's abandoned you, he doesn't care about you. And I just want you to know that it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel lost, to feel disappointed, to feel confused, all of it. I want you to give yourself permission to allow all of it. The whole human experience, all the feelings. God can handle it. Tell him about it. Listen, friend, secret. He already knows you feel that way, okay? It's not a surprise to him. He just wants to hear from you. He can handle it. All right, so here's your quick win for the week. And when I say quick win, I just mean something small and something that you can do right now that you have to continue to do for it to make real impact, but it's something you can start doing right now as soon as you end this podcast, okay? I want you to spend some quiet time reflecting back on the moments where God provided for you in some unexpected way. So our human brains forget stuff, okay? And then it like wants to cling to all the scary stuff or all the hard stuff because it wants to protect us from those things. And that is great. Our brains are doing a great job at that. Like we don't even have to train it to do that. Isn't that so cool that like our brains just protect us, right? Cool. But because it already does that without even having to try, we have to remind our brains that there's also good stuff. And we have to tell it over and over again, there's also good things, and let it know when there's actual danger versus like perceived danger, right? And I'm not saying don't protect yourself. I'm not saying be too vulnerable and expose yourself to getting hurt. What I'm saying is we have to remind our brains about the good stuff. And it may take time to see those things, but I promise you they are there. That phone call that came at just the right time, the sweet compliment you got from the old man at the grocery store who told you you were so pretty, the picture that your child created for you, even if you didn't know what it was, but they made it for you, right? Like, trust, okay? Trust that he's really here with you. And maybe you can't give God credit for those things yet. That's okay. I'm here with you. I feel you. You can call it something else if you want to. Just take the time to write down the things that make you feel a little more light in your life. Your brain is so cool. If you pay attention to those things, you will start noticing them more. And noticing those moments of light, these are your miracles. Start writing them down if you can. I actually have a gratitude journal where I write all my tender mercies, all my gratitude moments. And I have a whole notebook filled and another one halfway filled. And I started doing this right after my ex-husband left, so 5 years ago. And I've just been filling these journals up with all these beautiful moments, all these miracles, all these moments of light. And it has proven to me over and over and over again that even when the world is so dark and so heavy and so stupid, right? Sometimes life is so stupid, but God is there in all of it. I promise you, he's there. So that's your quick win today. Take some time, reflect back on those moments, write them down if you can. You're going to find out quickly that I love to write stuff down. There's a lot of science behind writing things down. So it's not just my cute opinion. It really does help. So take the time, write those things down, and start building a habit of writing them down and noticing those things. It may seem really small, but I promise you it'll make a big impact, especially when paired with the other tools I'll be giving you throughout the show. But for right now, I want you to start there. Okay, my friends, let's make the world a kinder place. And will you do me a favor? Will you hit that follow or subscribe button so we can hang out every week? All right, I'll see you next time.